Hello, how's everybody doing? So today I got a stream. I'm going to be talking about the skeptics and atheists and their circular logic because they like to say that we're appealing to God to create everything, and but it turns out they're appealing to a God of nature themselves. They're just giving nature the credit for nature, which is circular and irrational and nonsensical. So they're saying that we believe in a God, but they believe in a God too. Their God is nature. Hello, Christian Carpenter. Good evening. Yeah, nice woods. Yeah, very nice. So they're not they're criticizing us, but they're not any better, and because they're worse, because they have circular reason. They're appealing to nature as being the cause of itself, nature, which is not possible because everything that exists is from a greater cause, a greater force, a greater power is what makes everything. And an example is the elements of hydrogen, carbon, magnesium, zinc, iron, sulfur. All these elements are essential for life. In fact, there's 20 or more elements, depending on how you define essential. But as far as the living, inside of the living organisms, to have life, you need 20 of the most common elements. And if you're missing, for example, iron, if you're missing iron, you don't have life. Of course, if you're missing carbon, you don't have life because that's what we are. We're made of carbon molecules. But if you're missing one little thing, magnesium, zinc, or whatever it is, 20, any one of the 20 elements, you don't have life. And then, so besides that, the elements themselves can't even can't even make themselves. Hydrogen can't make itself, and each one of these elements is made by a greater force. Of course, if you have ordered an ordered element, or ordered hydrogen, for example, if hydrogen has been brought together, because hydrogen is a gas, it'll just go off into space and not, you know, bunch itself up together. But if it's forced to be together in one place and becomes like a liquid or a uh, metallic phase, whatever. Because in Jupiter, they've they're talking about metallic hydrogen now, and that's the reason for the magnetic field, the strong magnetic field of Jupiter, because of the metallic hydrogen. But if you have hydrogen brought together, first you have to make hydrogen, and to make an atom is like when you put a string on a bow. You bend the bow and you put pressure on the bow and you bring the string up and you bind it together. Then it holds together, holds together like a like a bow and a string. To you got bound up energy in this bow and string. That's basically what an element is. So with hydrogen, in order to form hydrogen, it has to be forced to hold together, forced to hook together, to hold together by a greater force, and then it has its own force from it within the element itself. It has its own energy. Of course, that's what fission is, when they try to make unstable molecules, unstable atoms explode. Like uranium or whatever. is because they're already unstable, and then they just like hit them with something, they release all the energy that they have bound up inside them, and that's where the energy comes from. But before that, you have to fuse them together. You have to fuse the elements together, and that takes force. It takes a greater force than what the element itself has. And the fusion happens in a star, from what they say, what they tell us, because of the force of the gravity, because there's so much hydrogen in one place, which was never explained how the hydrogen got in one place. Of course, first they didn't explain how hydrogen was made. They didn't explain how it got in one place, or but now you have hydrogen in one place. That's what the force of gravity is so much because of the volume of hydrogen. So then you start fusing the helium and the other elements. So that's how we're told that the elements are made. And of course, there's other ways too. If you have two neutron stars collide, they detected the gravitational waves from two neutron stars colliding, and they detected gold, silver, heavy elements being made from the force of the two neutron stars, coming together. Because if it was black holes, they couldn't see. They wouldn't be able to see anything being made because there wouldn't be anything escaping from the collision of two black holes. But two neutron stars, they were able to see the light from the collision, and from the spectrum, they were able to detect huge amounts of gold, silver, platinum, and the heavy metals. So that's how they're telling us. Well, that's already observed already. That's how some of the heavy elements can be made, but it's with a greater force. You have to have a greater force to make the elements. But it turns out that each one of these elements are essential working parts inside of us, and they they can't credit the element themselves for making itself because it can't make itself. So what are they going to credit? Where did the matter come from to make all the gravity? Or even if there was a big bang, you say they're still in the mindset of a big bang. Where did all that matter come from? Or they said that you got matter and antimatter, and it annihilates itself, and only the matter's left and stuff like that. They can't figure that out either. Why? What happened to the antimatter? Where's the antimatter? And why is it that we have matter without antimatter? This is another problem. So you have all these bowstring problems where you have to have a greater force to make the element. But they're trying to credit nature for making itself, ordering itself, and putting itself together, and then ordering life, which is beyond you know beyond the rational mind, beyond um, a capable mind. I mean, it's in the inverse way. It's not smarter than the smartest person, but not as smart as even what they claim. But anyway, so they're trying to give the credit to nature. So the way they're doing it now is they're appealing to infinite universes, of course, which only deepens the problem because where did the matter come for the infinite universes? And they're appealing to infinite possibilities by way of appealing to infinite universes with supposedly different properties in the universes. And we just happen to have the right universe where life was formed. That's their claim. Out of the infinite number of universes, which they can't explain where the energy came from for any of them, they're crediting that for the existence of this universe with all the right properties and with the 20 elements that are essential working parts inside of a living organism. But when was the last time you saw a car part make itself to work right? Car parts always work wrong, anyways. But when was the last time you saw a car part make itself and put itself together? It just doesn't work. So they're appealing to nature for the existence of nature, which is circular and nonsensical. And they blame us for appealing. I mean, they fault us for believing in God because we know that nature can't make nature. We know that matter can't make itself, matter can't order itself, can't direct itself, and of course it can't make everything we see around us, all the trees and the animals and the all the life forms that we have. But of course they're appealing to infinite possibility, but it's all nonsensical because you can't even get information by making mistakes, and that's their mechanism for evolution. Is in order to give the glory to mindless matter, they're relying on mistakes. If you make enough mistakes, they think that you'll eventually hit on the right thing or something that's beneficial, something that'll work. But the reality is that the more mistakes you make, the more you're going to self-destruct. And that's just hasn't sunk into them yet that mutations are harmful. They're very detrimental and harmful. That's how we die. That's the reason why we die. But they think, well, if it's selected for, then that's going to write billions of bits of programming that's not there. That's nonsense. They can't even get a single beneficial mutate to, or they get it. Well, what you need billions of successive, correctly placed mistakes, and that's not the order of mistakes. The order of mistakes is to keep making more mistakes and more mistakes and more mistakes. You're never going to, get the right combination, and especially not at the same time in the same place on the same planet for all of the different life forms that get information that's not there. This is, it's logic that God gave to the average person that they're denying, and they don't realize that they have a God themselves. Their God is nature, and that's circular reasoning because they're giving the credit and the glory to nature for the existence of nature. And the other thing is that the Bible talks about giving glory to God, but they don't believe that the Bible is sensible, rational, rational or reasonable. They don't believe that the Bible has something valid to say. So they discount the Bible. They don't believe it, so they don't understand what the Bible is saying when it says give the glory to God. But instead, they give the glory to mindless matter and images of whatever. You know, they're giving the glory, the credit to nature for the existence of nature, which is totally absurd and nonsensical, and will never work. But anyways, they can't wrap their head around it that they have a God too. They believe in a God too. Only they believe in a physical God, which is even more absurd than a supernatural God that we believe in. You know, well, because of course you have at some point you have to have a non-contingent cause of everything, and every physical cause is contingent on another physical cause, another physical cause, and they just think it's infinitely, wavy universe or whatever, causing, nebulous or whatever. It's just, you know, it's mush. It's brain mush because they're not even thinking about where any of the matter came from, and that matter can't make itself. And because if you have a greater and greater physical cause, it's not going to work because eventually the cause has to be greater. The physical cause has to be greater and greater and greater and greater to infinity. Which, if it was an infinite physical cause that caused everything, nothing would exist because all you have is energy, you know. But it's got to be, you know, with purpose, with a reason, and has to has to work as directed. But that's the reason why you have to understand that there's a non-contingent cause for every contingent physical thing. There has to be something above and beyond the physical realm that caused the physical realm, and that's what we believe is God, because of course He also made every living organism, which takes wisdom, understanding, knowledge of every detail of physics, including time, time and distance, time and space, which they still they're thinking that the universe is still expanding, which is another nonsensical thing. Another nonsensical thing that they believe in is an infinitely expanding universe. It's like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. How can you have an infinitely expanding universe? Where's the energy coming from? Turns out that what they're seeing, the redshift that they're seeing, which is they think is the expanding universe, is the already expanded universe, but the expansion is in between each of the galaxies. And it's not that it's continuing to expand, it's just that everywhere between every other galaxy twice as far is expanding twice as much because of the distance and space in between, which is without matter, which doesn't dilate distance. So you have an expansion. You have an expansion between each of the galaxies. So the expansion, redshift, is in between each of the galaxies. So the farther away you get, the more redshift you get because the more expansion there is. But they can't seem to understand that yet, nor because they have these observations once in a while. They have an observation that something blew up in outer space, and this, sent the, uh, sent some matter or a stream of plasma or whatever out faster than the speed of light. So they said, oh, it's faster than the speed of light. No, it's not faster than the speed of light. It's just that the space where it's being projected into is expanded. It's a greater distance than what you're calculating because of the expansion of space. So it's not going as fast as what you think, or it's not going faster than the speed of light because the distance that you're calculating is wrong. Also, the rate of time is not what you're thinking. The rate of time is going faster than what you think. So they and that, and plus the spiral arms. The spiral arms are going too fast for the matter in the galaxy, according to them, because they don't account for the the changing of the rate of speed of time. The changing of the rate of time goes faster in the outer spiral arms than it does near the black hole, where time goes by slower. So time goes by faster, so more events take place. So that's why the spiral arms are going faster than what they think it is. So those two things, the expansion of space and the uh, difference in the rate of time, are two things that they're not even considering when they're making these observations. But anyways, the point is that you have to have the matter formed, ordered, or put together, bound together, so that it collapses on itself, so that you can have gravity, so that you can have time and distance. Because if you don't have matter formed and bunched together, you don't have time and distance where things can take place, where life can take place and happen. So that's the thing about our galaxy. It's the black hole and all the matter in the galaxy that gives us our rate of time and measure of distance. But if you get away from the galaxy, then the measure of distance will increase and the rate of time will go faster, because it slows down where the matter is and the distance contracts where there's a black hole. But you get away from a galaxy, that's where you have expanded space. Not expanding space, expanded space. Because you can't, an infinitely expanding universe is nonsensical, just like, nature making nature is nonsensical. But there's so many things they don't even understand because they underestimate and don't believe that the Bible has something valid to say. So they just totally miss it. It just goes right over their head and they don't understand it because they don't think it's worth listening to. But if they knew it was worth listening to, then they would understand. But since they don't believe, they suffer and they're made nonsensical and irrational. God bless. Take care.